Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Anton. So today we're back with a brand new series. I'm going to show you guys how to create a Discord bot that works on not just one guild, but multiple guilds. Okay, so we're going to be using a database because the database itself is key to getting this working on multiple guilds. The database that we're going to be using is MySQL. Okay, so make sure you have MySQL server installed, whether you're on Windows, Linux, or Mac. Okay, and so right now we know how to make Discord bots work on just one guild, but how do we make it work on multiple guilds? Well, we need a database to keep track of the state of our guilds, the state of our users. Let's say, for example, if you want to have multiple prefixes to work on different guilds, you need to be able to save that data to a database so that you can reuse it another time. If you just save it in memory, when your bot goes offline and it comes back online again, all that stuff is going to be cleared and it's not going to work. And there are a lot of solutions. You can use MongoDB or Redis, for example, but we're just going to go ahead and use MySQL. So make sure you install MySQL. Okay, it's very easy to install. If you install MySQL, I think you're probably going to have version 8, and you might end up getting an issue with like an authentication plugin issue. So I'll show you guys how to work around it. But if you guys do get the issue, let me know, and I'll help you guys out in the comments or on my Discord server. So let's go ahead and get our project set up. So we're going to go ahead and just create a directory called Discord bot MySQL. I'm going to cd into that. Okay, so npm init-y. And we're going to install a couple dependencies. We're going to install discord.js, .env, and we're going to install MySQL 2. The reason why we're installing MySQL 2 is if you're using MySQL Server version 8, you're probably going to end up getting an authentication plugin issue. And I was spending like the past 30 minutes trying to figure it out. And it turns out that for some reason it didn't really work. So I decided to use MySQL 2. Okay, so MySQL 2 is also pretty updated too, which is pretty freaking awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up our Visual Studio Code. And what I want to do is I want to get my bot token. You want to make sure that you have 2 Discord servers, and you want to make sure that your bot is on both servers. So I have 2 servers over here, Pokebot. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and set up my source folder. So this is where all of the source files are going to go. And then we're going to create a .env file. And we're going to go ahead and create an environment variable called bot_token. So we're going to load up that environment variable by referencing the config function. We're going to call that config function after we require .env module. That's what's going to load this environment variable into memory for us. And now I'm going to go ahead and require the client class from Discord.js. We are on version 12, just letting you guys know. We're going to create a new instance of the client, and let's just go ahead and log our bot in. So we're going to reference process.env.bot_token. So this is going to, remember, the .config function from the .env module is going to load up this environment variable into the .env object, and we can reference it right over here. It's going to go ahead and say our bot is logged in. Now I'm going to go ahead and set up a dev script, so that way we can run our bot using a script instead, which is better practice. And we're going to set up a start script, and that's just going to be the node command. So make sure you have node mod installed. If you don't have it installed, you can install using npm. Just do npm i-g node mod, and now install globally. Cool. All right, awesome. So that's pretty much it for setting up our bot. Okay, so yeah, like I said, just to recap, we are on version 12. So make sure you're using Discord.js version 12. Okay, well, 12.1.1 to be specific. Make sure you're on Node.js version 12. That is very important. Okay, if you're not on Node.js version 12, you cannot use Discord.js version 12. We installed .env to load up the environment variables. We installed MySQL 2. Okay, not MySQL, not MySQL Promise, MySQL 2. And this MySQL 2 is the npm package. It is a library that is going to allow us to interact with our MySQL server. Okay, it's completely different than the actual SQL server that you need to install. If you don't know how to install MySQL server, you're just going to go to dev.mysql.com/downloads, and you can download it on either Windows, Linux, or Mac. Okay, there's a whole bunch of downloads if you go to this page, but you want to click on MySQL installer for Windows, and you're just going to install the MySQL installer, and it's going to allow you to install a lot of different programs. The only program that you need is MySQL Server. When you install MySQL Server, you can verify it by just typing in MySQL, and it'll open up this shell over here. okay, the command line client, you can see I'm on version 8. I don't think I can zoom in, but I'm on version 8 over here. And I just have to type in my password and it will log me into my database. Okay, so it's very easy to install MySQL. I have a video from like 2 years ago showing you how to install MySQL. So I'll put a link in the description and the timestamp, and you can use that as reference. But you can just look up a video on how to install MySQL on your specific operating system. It's very easy. If you're on Mac or Linux, you can just type MySQL, and you can see right over here that it's trying to log me in, but we didn't. It says access denied because we're not logging with the user. Okay, and so now what we can do is we can log into our database. So assuming that you have your database already set up, we're going to log into the root user. So I'm going to do MySQL-u root-p. So I'm using my Windows terminal to log in from to log into MySQL. But you can actually just use the MySQL command line client, type in your password, and that'll log you in right there. But let's say if you prefer using your own custom terminal, you can just type the password in. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, so now that you have logged into your MySQL server, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new user. So to do that, we're going to do create user. Now, assuming this is your first time installing MySQL, you're probably not going to have any users that are recreated. String antondev. Okay, so quotes antondev at localhost. And we're going to do identified with MySQL native password. So if you are on version 8 of your SQL Server, if you don't specify this, by default, it's going to use the new authentication plugin, which you might end up getting an issue with logging in. So for example, let me actually just create this user without that plugin set up. And we're going to do by quotes, and this is going to be a password. So the password, I'm going to do my db test pw. What's going on? I think we have to do identified by. Okay, so we created a new user, and then we can verify that by selecting the user. And you can see that over here, I created a user called antondev. And by default, it uses the newer authentication plugin in version 8. Okay, so now if I were to connect to this database using, I think, the MySQL driver, like the default MySQL driver, not MySQL 2, it's going to give us an error. So for example, if I go to MySQL 2, and if I try to log our database in, so I'm going to create a new file or a new folder called database, and we're going to create a new file called db.js, and we're going to require the MySQL 2 driver. So const MySQL equals require MySQL 2. So MySQL.create connection. And over here, we're going to need to pass in our data or our credentials. So we're going to need to load up our environment variables. So I'm going to create an environment variable called dbuser, and that's just going to be the username of our database user that we just created. So antondev db pass, that's just going to be my db test pw. Okay, so we'll leave it like that for now, and let's just try and do this. So just for testing, I'm just going to require the .env file again. But when we actually import this file to the bot file, we're not going to need to require this again. Process.env db user pass process.env db pass. So hopefully this does not give us any issues. So let me just check the documentation real quick. And let's just see what's going on. So the nice thing about the MySQL 2 driver is that it supports promises out of the box. So we can actually do that by referencing promise. Good. And then let's just catch the error if there is an error. Okay, so let's exit out of our database and let's just run nodemon database db.js. So it's saying access denied, so using password no. What are the fields? That's the thing that I'm trying to find over here. API and configuration. So password is what we need. Oh, okay, so it has to be password. Okay. There we go. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So see, good. We are connected. So if I want to do a quick, like a simple query, so we're gonna go inside here, execute this, and this should also return a promise as well. And then we're gonna go ahead and catch that error down there. Okay, let's save. See now it says no database selected. So we need to make sure we create a database. So we're gonna go ahead and create a database inside the MySQL shell. So let's log in. So MySQL-u ansondev-p mydbtest pw. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and show databases. So you can see how we have no databases that we can actually see over here, but we also don't have permissions for our user account. So if I try to create a database, it's going to give us an error. So if I do create database Discord db test, it's probably going to give us an error. Yep, access denied for ansondev at localhost to database Discord db test. So what we need to do is we need to switch to our user account. So we're going to log back in to user, or to root, sorry, not user, root. And what we're going to do is we're going to grant all privileges to our ansondev account. So grant all privileges on asterisk dot asterisk, okay, to ansondev at localhost. And there you go. So we've granted all the privileges. And just to make sure, we're going to flush all privileges. Okay, so now I should be able to log in to my ansondev account. And now if I do show database, it should show me all of my databases that I have, because we have all privileges. Okay, and you can also give certain privileges to your user, but we're giving it all of it. Okay, and now I can create a new database called create database, and we'll just do Discord DB. And I can step into that database, and I can step into that database by doing use Discord DB. And there you go. So we're inside that database. So now over here, we're going to pass in another environment variable. We're going to call this DB name. We're going to call it Discord DB because that's the name of our database. And we're going to pass in the database property and do process.env.db name. Okay, so now if we were to save, let's see. So I think this was just executed because we were using NodeMon. Yep, so it created the table for us. So if I do select from guilds, or I'm sorry, not select from guilds, show tables, you can see that we have this guilds table, and that's being created. That was already created from this execute and this statement over here. So we know 100% that our connection is good. So that is what matters the most. Okay, so in the next video, I'm going to show you guys how to actually insert data to our database. I'm going to show you guys how to create a simple schema. And then we're going to go ahead and get the actual configuration of our guild. And then we're going to have custom prefixes, custom command prefixes, and a lot of different configuration. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.